Smiley loved to ride. Way younger than the rest, and in home life at the best, you can find 15 alive. Lord, give him one more chance to let him ride.
Hi, how you doing, folks? It's Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have a t-shirt line and all that good stuff on our website, Hard Intentions. So what's going on? I've said before, about friends in prison, especially, but it applies to the streets as well. You have to be careful who you choose as your friends. You have to be careful who you confide in, right? And it's, that's a really easy statement to make, but I've seen time and time again where people confide in people they think they can trust, and it goes bad. I knew a couple guys in the joint that were good friends for many, many years, a couple decades probably. And then one guy was a member of an association, and the other guy used to be a member of a different organization on the streets before he got busted. And a bunch of guys told on him, and so he found out, hey, man, I heard you guys are going to take on these guys that I used to be a part of. And he's like, yeah, He goes, so those guys are fucking rats. And, there's still guys in that outfit that told on me, man. You're going to take all them guys. He made a big thing about it. And it destroyed their friendship, and I seen him later, and he's like, the other guy's like, well, it was a dispute over some dope or something. And he didn't tell me the real issue, but I found out later what it was, what happened, guy was butthurt that these guys had told on him, and his word or his opinion wasn't enough to stop this other group of guys from taking these guys on. So he went about that the wrong way. He could have probably went about that a different way, and they could have maybe selected guys out of that group. And I'm sure if anyone in that group told, I'm sure they ended up getting weeded out. But there was probably a way to get those guys weeded out without offending his friend and his outfit, But he did. He was maybe because he was emotional, he didn't think it through. And normally he was a pretty level-headed guy, and of course, from the 70s in San Quentin, there was a couple of different groups going at it. And one group was biker dudes, and the other group is prison gang. And like a dummy, somebody sent a kite to one of his friends through a runner, basically saying, fuck these guys. And the tier tender, instead of delivering it to his friend, he took it by someone who was in that prison gang and let them read it, and then he delivered it. And so the hey, fuck those guys basically turned into several guys getting killed. I know of one story personally, out of the mouth of the guy who did it. Guy was lifting weights, and they smoked weed with these dudes and kicked it with them and laughing, joking, hey, and then old boy got up off the bench. The guy grabbed him by the shoulder, spun him around, stabbed him one time in the chest, and cut his heart in half. And he said his sweatshirt was tucked into his sweatpants, and it just filled up like a balloon full of blood. But they stabbed 3 guys that day out of that group over somebody sending a kite with somebody they thought they could trust to deliver it, and it went bad. It got a couple guys killed, and one almost killed, and then some other guys were killed too later on. So you have to be very careful what you say, who you say it to, and who you choose as your friends. You know, and if you don't like somebody who's in an outfit, right? Say they got an outfit in prison or on the streets. Um, it depends on what your outcome, uh, your desired outcome is. I've gotten myself in a wreck by saying, "Hey, fuck that guy. That guy's a piece of shit," or "That guy's a fucking rat," or "That guy's probably a child molester," or and it's gotten me in the wreck where I had to do something because the person I said that to, and when I do that kind of shit back in the day, I was of the opinion I didn't really care if the guy heard what I said or not. Um, but it got me in a wreck where I had to stand up for what I said, basically. But the thing is, sometimes you have a bad opinion of someone, the guy's dirty. Uh, you know, I know guys that are hooked up in different prison organizations, and some of them are no good, right? And so if you speak out on that guy, or if you say, "Hey, fuck those guys," because he's a member of those guys, and you just say, "Hey, fuck them" as a whole group, that's not good. Uh, unless you're the toughest guy in town, or you have a death wish. Uh, if you have an issue with one guy who's in a group like that, prison organization, prison gang, whatever you want to call it, you should probably watch yourself and how you speak about it, and who you speak to, because the people that are surrounding you, that you think are your friends, if you tell your friend Bob, "Hey, Bob, that guy's a no good motherfucker and I don't like him," you better hope to God that your friend Bob isn't trying to get in good with that guy because he has access to dope, or he's a shot caller on the yard, or he sets policy, or maybe someday Bob might fuck up and he wants a favor. You know, you have several choices. You can tell your friend Bob, but what good is that going to do unless you're going to conspire with Bob to go hurt the guy? And if that's the case, you should probably just conspire with yourself to do what you want to do. Just do it, and then ask questions later. Because prison yard is small. You see 1,000 guys on a yard on the new yards, and there's nowhere to go. And if you value your integrity, you don't want to check in, you don't want to raise your hand and leave the yard, and you have an issue with somebody, they might not even know you have an issue with them. But if you feel like you can't live on the same yard with them, you should not let that be known to too many people, because if it gets back to them, they're not going to allow you to live on the yard. You might tell Bob and Joe, "Hey, that guy over there's a piece of shit. I don't like him, and I don't like being on the fucking yard with him," and tell him whatever you think about the guy. And they're going to go tell him, and then it might be a month, it might be 6 months, it might be a year. But maybe that guy has someone that wants to make his bones, so he has them slide up on you and stab you in the back when you're standing in the chow line. That's how it works. So, like my friend Dennis used to tell me, "Can you live with it?" And I'd tell him, "Yeah, I can live with it," or "No, I can't live with it." And then one occasion, I couldn't live with it. One of the guy's housing unit went in the cell and beat the fuck out of him for about 10 minutes because I couldn't live with it. Other occasions, like if you have a guy who thinks he's all that on the guard, and you can't live with it, I don't think an ass whooping's the way to go. I think you're going to have to go to the next level of violence, because there are guys in there that won't accept an ass whooping, period. And if you catch a guy who thinks he's about something, or if you catch a guy who is a member of some outfit in prison, they're not going to accept an ass whooping. They're going to have you dealt with later. And if you get caught fighting, if you jump on the guy, you're going to go to another yard and people are not going to know the situation. Maybe the guy had it coming. Maybe the guy's no good. But they don't know that. All they know he has a certain reputation and you don't, right? So, friends and statements to friends about other people it's a rough situation, man, especially in prison. And the same thing goes out here. You might have a job. You might not like your supervisor. Uh, Maybe other people don't like your supervisor, but you don't really care. And you engage in conversation with them. And they do something stupid to bring light to the fact that they don't like that supervisor. What's going to happen? If somebody hired that supervisor because they like what he said he can do, those guys are probably going to lose their jobs. And if you have allied yourself with them just because you think they're cool people, you might lose your job as well. In prison, it could lead to you losing your life. And on the other hand, maybe it's not your opinion. Maybe it's a friend of yours' opinion. Maybe your friend comes up to you and go, yeah, black guy Bob, he's a member of that fucking group over there. And, he's a piece of shit. And he ripped somebody off, or he pressured some guy out of his shit, or he got some credit from one of the homies and he didn't fucking pay him because he said he doesn't have to because he's that guy. So you got your friend telling you this shit about somebody, and you think, well, this guy's my friend. So what are you going to do? You're going to ally yourself up with him, or stay neutral, or what? Because in the end, if he has that opinion and he's verbalizing it about somebody who's a member of some prison organization, chances are in the end he's going to be a target for violence. And if you've associated yourself with him, you just might be also, I mean, your friends. So I'm saying your friendships and your statements to people you think are good have consequences. And sometimes they're dire consequences. It's a rough deal. Now you might meet somebody who's a homie from your homie town, and then they get hooked up in an organization. And because you're homies and you've been friendly with them, now you gotta jockey that position. Are you gonna say, hey, I'm in because my homie's one of them guys? Well, if your homie's one of them guys, that's cool for him. But that doesn't make you one of them guys. It makes you one of them guys who could be used up, chewed up, and spit out on call. Maybe the other guys in that outfit recognize that you're friends with your homie who just became a member of their organization. And so they might want to use you for some kind of thing that they could have done. And they're going to use him to get to you, to use you for whatever it is. I heard of stories about guys, forcing their old ladies to bring dope to them and all that. It might not be something like that. It might mean you got a job behind the wall where you have to go through work change and you have access to something they want. Maybe you have access to a piece of steel that they can make a knife out of. Maybe you have access to plumbing equipment or electrical equipment that they can make hot plates out of, or tattoo equipment out of, or something that they want. Maybe that's how they'll approach you, right? If you get caught bringing steel on the yard, that's a fucking shoeable offense. That's a misdemeanor case. But on the other hand, dope and all that kind of shit, that's a felony. And so if you're hooked up with someone and they express desires to join some organization that you don't really know much about, you might want to back up off that guy. Because when he becomes a member, he might approach you to do something you really don't want to do. So how do you back up off of that guy? Excuse me. What I did with most people, especially like a third of the way through my career, once I started growing up and realizing how things were, I hit the yard, brand new yard. Hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, hey, what's going on? That's you do drive-bys, drive-by greetings. Hey, what's going on? Or you go hang out at the table where they're playing pinochle or dominoes, and you just hang around and listen. Oh yeah, hey, what's up? You don't align yourself with anybody real tight. I'm fortunate that yeah, I made some friends in prison, man, that I am very close with even now today, and I could tell them, excuse me, things that were life and death things. I could tell them about things that if other person found out, it could cost me my life, my wind. I could tell my friends that were close to me and people I consider my friends, I could tell them that. But that's because we went through things together that showed me, hey, this guy's on my team 100%. I could trust him and I can be a part of his team 100% and they can trust me. But until you go through some kind of experience like that where they show you, uh, they're on your team 100, be cautious about what you say and be cautious about who you befriend. Even your cellie, they might throw you in a cell with somebody. They come off as cool, and then down the road you find out they're really not that cool. I heard some of these SNY guys on YouTube talking about their cellies and how their cellies got them in a wreck. Uh, where they disrespected them and they had to get off on them, and the guy was in a prison gang, and so that's a deal. Like, if you're get thrown in the cell with somebody who's has some kind of status on the yard or they're hooked up with some kind of outfit, you got to figure that out. Do you want to stay in a cell with them, or do you want to tell them right away, hey, I'm going to go live with my homeboy? And then if you stay in a cell with them, they start disrespecting you or making demands from you that you're not okay with. You have to make a decision. You're going to continue to put up with it. And then what do you tell him you want to move? And he gets butthurt about that. That could lead to violence on you later on down because you don't like the fact that you moved out of the cell with a guy. Or when you move out, he's going to say, I kicked that motherfucker out of my cell. Or you stay in a cell with a guy and the disrespect becomes to the point where you can't deal with it anymore and you feel like you have to do something, whether the guy's in a prison gang or some kind of organization or not. Cellie disputes, they're handled in the cell. That's a rough way to go. And if the guy's has some kind of status and you make some kind of move on that person, you might as well just figure you're out. You're going to have to make your move and then leave. Whether you leave by making another move on somebody else or whatever, it's going to open the door for others to make their bones on you. So, yeah, hooking up in a cell with somebody is it's a dicey thing. I always kept my own cell. I moved guys in that I tattooed on. If I got to know them and liked them a lot, like Todd, my cell, he was on death row now, they would stay in my cell until they left or whatever. But celly situation, friend situations are rough. Who you lift weights with, or they don't have weights now, so who you do bar work with, who you work with, who you go to vocational training with, who you're in school with, who you sit with in the chow hall. All that shit gets seen by other people. And so who you align yourself with is critical in prison because it can get you killed. And it could also, on the flip side of that, if you make the right decision, it can make your time and your life in prison very easy. So make the wise choice, make the wise choice because it only takes one bad decision to cost you dearly. And there are worse things than things costing you your life. Like, putting yourself in a position where you stay in the yard, you're going to get whacked, or you check in, there goes your integrity. in the minds of others, or you commit violence against somebody, you get more time, possibly a life sentence, possibly a shoe term. Consequences of actions and decisions in prison are it's critical stuff, and like I said, there's really nowhere to hide. You're on a yard with 1,000 dudes. There's nowhere to hide. And so, what about out here in the world? Um, if you're dabbling around in criminal behavior and you make the wrong decision with the wrong people, you make the wrong statement. It's not fist on fist, stomp out knife. People out here have guns and weapons that they can do it from a distance. You know, they can do drive-bys on you when you're riding your bike across town, or driving your car to work. When you get out the gas pump, pump your gas, or you know, when you get out of your vehicle at home in the driveway. So it's the same thing out here. It's just a little different. A lot more people out here are a little reluctant to risk their freedom, but your decisions out here in the world are just as dire as they are inside. It's just inside, um, things happen a little faster. There's nowhere to go. So make the right decision. If you're on your way to prison, or if you're in prison, just remember you have to make the right decisions about your friends, your cellies, your speech, who you talk to, who you associate with, all that. It's very critical. You know, it's very critical. You um, I've seen guys associate with people. I've seen guys befriend people, uh, get them high, put them in debt, and then a couple months later, they're stabbing somebody because they owe money to a guy they thought was their buddy. They thought that guy was befriending them, becoming friends with them, that they were good with that guy, and he was just getting them high. But really, the whole time was the guy was putting them in debt so he could use them up. I mean, it's a motherfucking dog eat dog world. So, like I said, I'm blessed to have friends from prison that I'm still friends with now. And I know that when I was in prison, um, they would have been there for me. Of course, no one's going to stand up for somebody that doesn't stand up for themselves. But given the right situation, standing up for myself, they would have been right by my side. And I know that because we've been friends for 40 years. Um, and I had someone tell me one time, man, I don't know anyone that I'm friends with now that I haven't seen in 20 years. So I was fortunate. And if you make the right decisions, you can be fortunate too. Just, and hopefully the right decisions mean you don't go to prison. uh, Take care of yourselves, enjoy your days, and get out there and do it fucking hard. Thank you, folks.